Alright guys, in today's video we're taking a look at the graphical update that was released for the DCS F-5E Tiger II alongside the very expansive DCS World Update that brought a lot of new and awesome functionality to the DCS core, like the mission editor and the DCS supercarrier. So for those of you guys who are not aware, this graphical update is for sale for existing customers of the F-5E Tiger II for $9.99, and those of you guys who are not F-5E customers previously but who are thinking about or want to buy the F-5E Tiger II, you will just have the normal sale price that's going on now. Now, of course, once the sale ends, you'll go back to the normal price for the F-5E. But of course, the graphical update will be included. Now, I've seen some discussion out there as to whether that $9.99 for this graphical update for the F5 is worth it for those existing customers out there. So I figured we'd go for a quick little flight around the Mariana Islands map here and discuss this topic. So let's hop in the cockpit and get started here. So, getting into the cockpit here, right off the bat, we can definitely see the updated art here inside the cockpit. And as you guys saw on the exterior shot to start this video, the exterior part of the cockpit has been updated as well. Now, one addition to the upgraded F5E here is also a pilot body for inside the cockpit. So let's go ahead and take a look at what keybind that is bound to here. Show pilot body, right shift and P. And so this will be really nice for those VR guys. And from what I understand from a lot of people who are really into VR, having a pilot body inside of the cockpit of their jet can really help with kind of grounding your brain and your mind in the cockpit and actually work to reduce some of that VR motion sickness, believe it or not. So that's a really fantastic addition to the cockpit of this aircraft beyond just the additional reworked art. Now, from my perspective as a seasoned DCS player and DCS content creator, I can really see the Eagle Dynamics art style coming through, and it has definitely replaced a lot of the old art that came from the now defunct Belsim Tech developer, which has now been absorbed into ED as a whole. So why don't we go ahead and taxi on out and take off and go for a short little flight. So we're just going to taxi out to runway 6 right here at Andersen Air Force Base. And the F-5E, just like a lot of purpose-built Air Force jets, requires you to press and hold the nose wheel steering button as you are moving your rudder pedals to, of course, move that nose wheel around as you're taxiing on the airfield. One thing to note here is there is no INS in the F-5E Tiger II, very similarly to the Mirage F1CE. So if you're looking to get into and start flying the F-5, just be aware that you're going to have to navigate via TACAN stations, point to point, or via TACAN radials and DME points as a stand-in for actual waypoints themselves. So for those of you guys who really enjoy flying the older style Mirage F1, that should be no problem for you. Now, it's kind of funny, in my opinion, the way video games almost trick your mind as a, video game aficionado and player. It's kind of like back in the day as a little kid, I remember playing the original Halo and Halo 2 and even Halo 3 and thinking they were so beautiful and having this memory in my mind of what Halo 1 and Halo 2 looked like, and then you look at a YouTube video and you're like, oh geez, that looks terrible. But when you say play the Halo 1 or 2 anniversary editions, you kind of see what your mind kind of tricked you into seeing as a little kid. And kind of coming back to flying the F5 after admittedly quite a long hiatus from flying this aircraft, it's kind of a similar kind of feeling where The F5 looks like it should look. It performs like it should look. It admittedly sounds a lot better, but the art and the new art doesn't really jump out at you. I'm just kind of like, well, this is what it was always like, right? But if you look at a screenshot from a lot earlier in DCS world, you're going to see a big difference here up on screen. So we're taxiing out onto runway 6 right here at Anderson Air Force Base. Obviously, I'm not being a very good pilot talking to ATC and all that good stuff, but we're just kind of demonstrating the module for you guys here. One of the biggest things I noticed in this graphical update, just jumping into the cockpit here, is the radar scope. The radar scope looks very different, and I'm excited to get the radar turned on once we get up into the air here. So we'll get lined up on the runway, and normally I do this while holding short, but I'm going to just go through a quick pre-taxi check before we hit the burners. Big thing we need to do is raise up the nose wheel struts, so that way we can get a higher angle of attack going down the runway and help us lift off a lot earlier. We've got our flaps down, that's good to go. I've got the tack hand off for now, so that way we don't have an annoying beeping sound in our cockpit. Everything else is looking good. So let's go ahead and punch it. Open up our engines here. Listen to those two little J85s purr. And over into burner. Very gently start to rotate off the runway. Gears coming up. Flaps coming up into auto. A little bit of nose down trim here to help us out a bit. We'll go ahead and pull her out of afterburner. And I don't know if it's because the F5 was like one of my very first modules and it's been a while since I've flown it, but she sure feels a heck of a lot easier to fly than I remember, that's for sure. And we've got a couple of rain squalls around here. This will be fun to fly through. Give the jet a little bath. And she sure needs a ton of nose down trim after takeoff. It's kind of like the F4 in that way. Radar to operate. Chaff and flares are armed. And we can see we definitely have ground clutter in the scope of our F5E. Let's try moving the tilt of the radar dish down a bit. Yep. Definitely getting a lot of clutter. And flying through this little rain squall here. Arcing around North Field. So I had originally planned this video to kind of coincide with the fact that I was flying a VFC 111 Sundowner skin, but turns out this is actually a VFC 13 Saint skin, so I should have been flying in the desert today rather than over a tropical island standing in for Key West, but it still works. And kind of using the radar scope as an artificial horizon to kind of coincide with what I'm seeing on the ADI ball. As we fly through some IMC there. Keeping the instrument scan going over to the VSI and the altimeter. Going real fast, wow. Because it's been a while since I haven't flown a super draggy F5. So back to kind of the discussion on whether or not I think that this little module here is worth the $9.99 upgrade. And I'm going to say it depends, right? So the upgrade is optional. If you own the F5 and you don't feel the want or need to update the graphics of the module, you don't have to buy it. And it's not going to affect your compatibility in multiplayer with other players who fly the F5, whether that's going to be the F5E FC3 or the F5E-3 non-upgraded for other players who are potentially flying on a server with you, or anything like that. But it's definitely a welcome addition and kind of brings the F5 back to a kind of gold standard for DCS. And it's also going to increase the incentive for folks who don't own the F5 to maybe jump in and try this jet out, because it is a very, very fun little jet to fly, and it can be rather capable in very skilled hands, just like the real jet is in real life. And there's a reason why the US Navy and Marine Corps still use the F5 as an aggressor training aircraft, and why a number of countries around the world still fly the F5 in frontline service, such as Brazil, Iran, Turkey, I believe still, and probably a number of others that I'm forgetting. Now, some folks wonder why this was a paid upgrade rather than a just a free upgrade that's just part of an update to the module. And, well, I guess it makes sense to me that, it's a optional addition to the aircraft, and the folks over at Eagle Dynamics who put in the time and the effort to actually do the art and do the upgrade, they deserve to get paid. And if Eagle Dynamics were to give their work away for free, then there would be no way for those folks to, make their salary. And one thing I always like to point out to folks is that, in comparison between the developers at Eagle Dynamics and their talents, their artistic talent, their computer programming talent, they could be working at many, many, many other businesses and making a much, much more lucrative living than working at a flight sim developer. But they work at Eagle Dynamics because they're passionate about the product and they're passionate about flight simming. And so I think that they definitely deserve to get paid to share their passion with us and allow us to enjoy the fruits of their labor. So hopefully this was kind of a good little overview of what you get from this upgrade. And again, it's kind of totally up to you guys and what you guys feel is best for you, but I do really think that this is a definite upgrade to the aircraft and is worth every penny of the $9.99, but that's just my 2 cents. And hopefully this upgrade will get more people to fly in the F5E going forward. One small caveat to this that I found a little bit annoying is because the external model has been upgraded and updated by Eagle Dynamics, it seems to me that previous skins that you may have downloaded or installed or even created yourself do not work anymore after the upgrade. And so that means to me that the template for the F5 for skin making has probably changed, and thus skins need to be remade and redone for the new template, and hopefully Eagle Dynamics releases that template soon. And fingers crossed, hopefully that means that the F5 is going to be easier to skin, because its template before was one of the harder ones, and I never quite figured it out. So hopefully I'll be able to make a beautiful Royal Daimar Air Force skin for the F5 in short order here. So thanks for watching, guys, and enjoy this beautiful game. Please leave a like and a subscribe, and fly safe out there.